You have found Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. Past episodes of the Authentic Business Adventures program can be found on podcast link at drawincustomers.com. We are coming to you from the Sun Prairie Community Radio Studios, underwritten by Bank of Sun Prairie. My name is James Kateman, entrepreneur, author, speaker, and helpful coach to small business owners across the country. Today, we are welcoming / preparing to learn from Sandra Daniel, owner of the Firelight Group. Sandra, how you doing?
Great.
So you got to tell me exactly, what is the Firelight Group?
Well, we have nothing to do with selling equipment or anything, light bulbs or anything like that, although we do get confused by that.
No fire and no light. Huh?
We are, our name actually came from two businesses that I put together.
Okay.
So I started a company in 2006, 2007 called Fire Incentives.
Oh.
And fire came from actually the tagline, which is fueling incentives, reaching excellence.
Oh, nice.
Stood for.
All right.
And I came from a background of doing some incentives with another company and decided I really wanted to do my own thing. So I started this incentive company in Madison, Wisconsin, and I came across a company in New York that had been doing this for over 30 years.
Wow.
They got their start on Madison Avenue. Arnold built the company, and he sold it to me. And the name of the company was the Light Group.
Okay.
And they had pretty good name recognition brand in the industry. So I put together Fire with Light Group and got the Fire Light Group.
Nice.
So that's the strange story behind it.
This is crazy because I've known you for years now. And in the first 2 minutes here, I learned something I didn't know about your business. So that's crazy. So tell me about you got a couple different avenues that I want to ask you about.
Okay.
One is incentives. This is incentives for employees. Is that correct?
Employees, channel partners, customers.
So even vendors and stuff like that.
Anyone. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And just what kind of incentives? Are we talking straight up cash? Or
no, we're usually talking not straight up cash.
Opposite of cash.
Cash, research shows cash is actually not motivating.
Oh, interesting.
So it's really merchandise, other types of, those types of things, but mostly incentive travel. Because research shows that travel is the number one way to motivate a workforce or a group of people.
It's like a trip to Hawaii or Denver or something like that, or
you got it.
A spa weekend or whatever. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So generally speaking, the type of clients that are using you, are they bigger companies or is it all sizes?
All sizes. Obviously, larger companies tend to have an understanding that they need to do these things to recognize, reward, engage their employees.
Sure.
But that's not to say that smaller companies don't need some help in the same way.
Sure.
And figuring out maybe how to thank their clients, how to engage them.
Sure.
So there's a lot of different ways to use incentives. And incentives is kind of a broad word.
That is an extremely broad word, right?
Yeah,
it's like success,
is.
Right? All right. So in your world, does it mean only travel or is it broader than that with your business?
No, we do everything. We have a technology platform for merchandise and gift cards and those types of rewards.
Okay.
So we have, I guess the best way I can describe it is we have a platform that's much like the rewards platforms you see with credit cards.
Oh, sure.
So, you earn so many points, you go out to the website, you find something that you want, and you use your points to buy it.
Sure.
In the same way, we do a peer-to-peer kind of technology that companies can use with their employee base. And they can, for example, an employee might recommend another employee for some points because they did an outstanding job supporting them on a project.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe the salespeople got a really big piece of business because somebody stayed all weekend to work on the proposal.
Sure.
And they want to recognize them.
Okay.
So they send a request to the manager, that person's manager, saying, I want to recognize this person. And manager might send an email to that employee saying, hey, thanks a lot. You've earned 1,000 points.
Okay.
And the employee can then go out and shop for something that they want.
So the employee goes out on your platform and shops for
Correct.
whatever, with a little teddy bear or a trip or whatever it is.
It
right?
is. Yep.
Okay.
Everything in between.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So then the employer must pay you for those?
Yes, for the services of, maintaining their website, for all the fulfillment process, the order process.
Okay.
And, so we manage that on the back end.
All right.
They brand and logo, obviously, their company website, rewards platform.
Okay.
And then call it what they want. We help them develop it.
Sure.
If needed, design it, all that sort of thing.
Oh, very cool.
We can sort of plug and play, or we can really customize. It's it's our own software, so we can kind of do what we want.
I was just going to ask if it was proprietary or something that you guys had built.
Yeah, it's something we built. It's something that the New York company I told you about, Arnold, was really basically getting ready to retire.
Okay.
And that's why he sold the business.
Sure.
And he was probably one of the first people in our industry that was thinking about the technology side of it.
Sure.
And had already negotiated with a company to do some online platform stuff.
Oh, nice.
20-some years ago when it was very new.
Wow.
So we were kind of at the cutting edge of that.
Sure.
And actually getting into that side of the business was the reason we survived the recession of 2008, 2009.
Oh, really?
Because everyone cut back on travel. That was the first thing they did. If they were doing an incentive travel program, they cut it.
All right.
But they were still keeping some incentive alive in their rewards platforms or their recognition platforms. And they, kind of hung in there with us on the technology side. And that's kind of what got us through the rough years before people started traveling again.
Sure. So over the course of the 20 plus years, have you had to update that software to become apps and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
Or? Okay.
Yeah.
So
you're always with technology. It's never done.
No.
So.
No, that's very true. Very true. Interesting. What made you decide to buy into Howard? Was it Howard?
Arnold.
Arnold. What made you decide to buy into Arnold's business versus some other business that was doing the same thing?
Well, actually, we were connected at an industry event.
Oh, really? Okay.
And someone knew Arnold, and they knew me, and they knew I was looking maybe for some opportunities to grow my business. And they said, I know about this little company in New York you might be interested in. And we started courting, and about a year later, we had worked out an agreement, and I purchased his company.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So did he have employees and all that jazz?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I inherited some employees in New York, an office building.
Okay.
Some Herman Miller chairs that ended up in storage for about a year before we finally sold them.
All right.
A couple of loose ends there, but and the intention was that I was going to move to New York and operate out of there. But we ended up moving the company and the headquarters, keeping it in Madison.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. What made you make that decision?
Well, a couple of things.
Okay.
We love Madison.
All right, fair.
The workforce here and the depth of strength we have, and the university students and the educated population here is a real positive, I think, for most businesses like mine that need intellectual property.
Right.
And also, New York is extremely expensive.
Yeah, I was just going to say rent there alone is probably a pretty penny.
Yeah, salaries are about double.
Oh, wow.
Double to, in some cases, almost triple.
Okay.
In our industry. So we slowly kind of worked to get people domiciled in Madison.
Sure. Okay.
And also, it was right at the time when businesses could start doing more remotely.
Sure.
You know, that was kind of the beginning of that whole time. And so that really helped, being able to work remotely, do anything from anywhere kind of thing.
Right.
And ironically, we kind of got everyone domiciled in Madison, and now people are starting to go remote again.
Oh, funny.
So, you know.
All right.
But that's not surprising with the way people work in our business, because we're all over the world. You know? So
I imagine, are you traveling as well just to see all these places?
Oh,
or?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I just got back a couple days ago from Cartagena, Colombia,
Miami,
and Cuba in the last 2 weeks.
Nice.
So, Yeah.
And that's just to check out places, more
Absolutely.
or less? Okay.
Absolutely. Timing, the fact that it snowed in Wisconsin had nothing to do with it.
It doesn't sound terrible. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So how many employees did you end up inheriting then?
Well, I inherited about 4 in New York.
Okay.
And then I kept the owner on
Okay.
for a while.
Sure.
He did sort
just
of
to help
work.
with the transition.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
he did a workout deal.
Okay.
And then I just slowly, as I was able to sort of replace them. I kind of either moved them to Madison or moved the work to Madison.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So the ones that stuck around. The ones that didn't.
Correct.
Good luck. See you later.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I imagine that it'd be a challenge because they're going from this guy as a manager and now you, which I don't know, personality-wise, if you guys are similar or different.
Oh, probably very different.
Oh,
Very,
no.
very different.
Okay.
But
what did we get into?
yeah, not in a bad way. Just in
Sure.
I guess the way I looked at it is, I bought a company that was 30 years old, and we were a new company.
Oh,
So
sure.
we were a mix of new and old.
Okay.
So, but the good thing was the older company, or the 30-year-old company, was always evolving with the
Okay,
business.
sure.
And like I said, Arnold, even though he was in his 70s when he sold the business, was definitely a guy that was always reading up
Sure.
and understanding our industry better, and what solutions were out there that people hadn't thought of. So
Nice.
he was a pretty cutting-edge guy.
Okay.
But he was definitely ready to start golfing and hang out with
That's
grandchildren.
awesome.
So, yeah.
Sure. Well, after 30 years of owning the same business, I guess
Yeah.
I'd probably be ready to tap out too.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
So the business that you do, I guess from a travel point of view, are you traveling a lot then?
I travel quite a bit. I travel with clients to check out different destinations
Oh,
for their
nice.
groups.
Okay.
I travel on industry events, and we have several big associations in our industry.
Okay.
I was the chair of one of the big industry associate. It's not an association; it was a foundation, but it's called
Sure.
the Incentive Research Foundation.
Okay.
And actually, they can be found at theirf.org.
Okay.
And what it is a non-profit research arm of the incentive industry.
Oh, nice.
And we have worked to raise funds to do research
Oh.
to help people understand how to motivate people, what
Oh.
are good solutions, how to design a proper incentive
Sure.
program, why cash is not a good incentive,
Sure.
why travel is so effective,
All right.
and a host of other topics.
Sure.
But if you go out to the website, you can look at all the research. It's all free to
Sure.
anyone.
Okay.
There's just been a lot of funding that's been raised over the years to pay
Sure.
for it. So I was involved on that board for over 15 years, and I was the chair for a couple of years.
Holy
and
cow.
So a lot of the travel as well had to do with, going to board meetings, things
Sure.
like that. So,
All right. Now I want to go down a little rabbit hole if you don't mind. So the whole cash not being an incentive thing, you have me thinking now because I do cash bonuses for my employees now, and it's all based on objective accomplishments, right? They answer so many calls, they blah blah blah, right? Insert metric here. And I like to shake it up every month so it's something different, just so that they're aware that we're keeping track of stuff. And they do their best and it's not subjective. I don't want anything like, oh, you made us feel good or anything.
Right.
I want something that can be easily measured. So if they achieve it or if they don't achieve it, it's very black and white.
Right.
So you're suggesting that I should do some incentives of some other kind besides or instead of cash. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I think, again, it takes a little understanding your business
Sure.
and how you're using those incentives. So there's a bit of a blanket statement when I say that.
Yeah.
It assumes a couple things.
Okay.
One, you're paying people a decent wage,
Okay.
a reasonable, fair
Sure.
wage.
Okay.
Because if you pay people $1 less than they think they deserve,
Right.
then,
What's the point? Okay.
what's
I
the
get
point?
you.
Okay.
All right.
But if you're paying people fairly
Sure.
and appropriately,
I like to think I am, but
yeah, and then you want to compensate them for going beyond or
Sure.
doing better than what's expected. Then that's when cash is not really very effective.
Oh.
And it has almost declining value over time.
Oh, I feel like I wasted a bunch of money then.
Well, maybe not. We'd have to look at it.
Sure.
But, so basically, in the first year that you do a cash bonus, people get really excited, right? And they say, wow, I made $5,000 in bonuses this year, whatever it is.
Sure.
First of all, they don't typically run around and tell people, guess what? I made $5,000 bonus this year.
Probably not.
It's not something you brag about.
Sure.
We're kind of, especially our Midwestern roots, we're not raised to think it's appropriate to brag about what we make or how much we make, right? Mm-hmm. However, if you give that same person a trip to Hawaii, what do you think they do?
They're probably telling everyone.
Of course.
Jumping up and down.
My employer is so awesome.
Sure.
They're sending me to Hawaii. And
all right.
5 years from now, do you think the employee that got the $5,000 cash is going to remember what they spent it on?
No.
Do you think they probably maybe spent some on bills and maybe put a little in the bank and maybe they bought themselves something special. Maybe they bought a nice stereo system and they look at it and say, wow, that's cool. I got that with my bonus.
Yeah. Even if they remember that.
Even if they remember it.
Yeah. That might be a stretch.
That same employee goes to Hawaii.
They remember the trip.
They remember the trip for the rest of their lives.
I suppose the movie Total Recall, right? It wasn't like Schwarzenegger remembered he got $1,000 or anything.
Exactly.
You remember the trips. Okay. That's fair.
That's
fair.
Yeah. So, just if you think about it, just from think about yourself and what you remember. You remember experiences.
All right.
The other thing that happens with cash over time is people start feeling entitled to it.
Definitely.
And it becomes their compensation.
Yes.
Not something. If they don't make their bonus, all of a sudden now they're mad, right?
Yes.
Because they don't see the bonus as something that I'm earning anymore. It's something I deserve.
Right.
So it's very hard to keep cash separate from compensation. Mm-hmm. So you have to have a good compensation plan and understand that you're paying people fairly in the market and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. Once all those things are equal, it's absolutely hands down more effective to give people an experience.
All right.
Secondly, merchandise rewards and things are better than cash because they at least have trophy value. Mm-hmm. At least if somebody comes in my house and I've got a brand new Curve smart TV, whatever.
Sure.
And they say, well, that's a cool TV. And you say, oh, yeah, I got that. I did well at
James,
my job.
Super awesome boss, got it for me.
Yep. So at least I can still associate that thing to something that I earned.
Okay. All right. I like that. So can you give me, I guess you give the example of TV. Can you give me some other examples of stuff besides the trips and all that jazz?
Yeah. I mean, certainly a lot of people save up their points and they wait until this time of year. Okay. This is when our redemptions go way up.
Oh, because they're buying gifts for other people?
Absolutely. Oh, so they use those points to buy their Christmas gifts for their family and friends.
All right.
And it feels good because they don't leave the holiday season with a big credit card bill.
Right.
And also for things that they kind of want but don't feel justified in buying.
Okay.
So maybe I've always wanted to get a expensive UGG blanket that's all warm and fuzzy when the snow starts flying in Wisconsin. And it's $200 and I'm like, I'm not going to spend $200.
I'll pretend to know what that is.
Yeah. And UGG boots.
Okay.
They make
blankets?
They make blankets. And
I'm kind of happy I didn't know
They're really
that.
kind of awesome.
Okay.
But
for $200 they better be.
Exactly. And they never go on sale because they're they're a high-end brand that doesn't have to.
Okay.
All right. So maybe I don't feel real justified in going out and spending $200 on a blanket, but I wouldn't feel bad about using my points that I've earned.
All right.
That cost me nothing to redeem. To go get that blanket.
How fancy does this stuff get?
Oh,
are we talking cards?
We're talking millions of items. So everything, including things like Amazon gift cards, gift cards to different restaurants, stores.
Okay.
So people almost get close to the cash thing with the gift cards.
Sure.
But even with that, sometimes it's nice because rather than giving someone cash, if you know their favorite thing is going to Applebee's for lunch, you can get them an Applebee's gift card. And it's a little more dialed into what they personally like as opposed to just blanket cash.
Get yourself something nice here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So then I'm just trying to imagine this in my head. Your clients... do you and them go through the ground rules for what is going to what is going to be a point or the value of a point.
Absolutely.
And what the employees or whoever's getting these incentives can spend with these points, like the value of them?
Yep.
Okay.
Everything in terms of that and what's going to be offered.
Okay.
Some businesses have their own shirts, T-shirts, hats, whatever, that are logoed, or backpacks, or or maybe their goal is to improve wellness in their organization. So they want to have a component of things people can go out and redeem that help them health.
Very cool.
So maybe treadmills and weights and whatever. They could do it all just around wellness. They could do a segment around that.
Okay.
It's really whatever they want can be
nice,
acquired. So
that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. But it sounds like there's a lot, it's very customized. Okay. So the individual client comes to you and they're like, hey, we got hats, T-shirts. Maybe we don't want to distribute alcohol or something because we don't want that liability or whatever. Or we want trips, but only 3 days or less because we don't want our people gone a week at a time or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. So interesting. So you got to check a lot of boxes on your end.
Oh, absolutely.
Interesting.
Just have to do a lot of groundwork and understanding the business, how it runs, what they've done in the past. What incremental increase in sales or growth or productivity they need to pay for that incentive.
Right.
So we also believe that incentives don't make sense if they don't pay for themselves.
Fair. Totally fair.
If you're giving bonuses, but you're really not getting that incremental increase, then something's not right with the system.
Right. That's fair. That's fair. Interesting. So I'm thinking of the employees or the vendors or the clients, whoever you're offering these incentives for, or whoever your client is offering the incentives for. Is there a learning curve that you have to help train them on how to use the system and how they achieve points and all that kind of stuff? Or is that more or less up to your client to distribute that information?
No, we've done that.
Okay.
We have some clients where they have offices all over the country, and then we'll set up webinars to teach them, how to do the administration side. Is more, most employees and most people these days can go on to, think about yourself. You go on to American Express Rewards website, you can figure out how to find products and buy them. It doesn't take much to learn it.
Sure, that's fair.
So a lot of it is very intuitive and very easy to figure out on your own. But
that is cool.
Where it's necessary to train, it's usually more on the admin side. So the people behind the scenes at the company that are awarding the points and manipulating those sorts of things. Those are the people that probably need the training.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. That's pretty cool. So how has your business evolved in the past, what are we talking, 12, 13 years here?
Yeah.
So I imagine things have changed a little bit. A decade plus.
Lots have changed. So I started the business in, like I said, about 2006-07.
Okay.
Started working on it in 2006. I think made it formally a business in 2007, incorporated, did all that. But at that time, incentive travel was still very hot. And people were doing it. The economy was good. People were, businesses were making money. They were looking for ways to motivate their employees. And I would say more on the sales side. So a lot of sales incentive programs, especially in the travel.
You sell so much. You get a trip to Guam or wherever.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So I would say that I worked more on that travel side in 2007, 2008. And then we had the recession. And
things go a little south.
Definitely. A lot of businesses my size went under. And like I said, if I didn't have the technology piece, I think I might have followed right along with them. So while we were not traveling for those couple of years, there was definitely a slowing of that side of the business. And I think when people came back to doing the sales and other incentives and the travel incentives, they wanted to definitely give more thought and analyze the numbers and the ROI a lot more closely. So in the past where people said, we know it works. That's all right. We're going to send everybody to Hawaii. We know it's great. We know they're going to be motivated. We don't need to have a lot of scientific data to back it up. Then I think when we came back from that recession, we really had to take a stronger look at,
prove your worth.
okay, what are the numbers?
Sure.
How does this pay for itself?
Okay.
We're going to spend so many dollars on sending all of our employees or all of our top salespeople. Let's say it's 100 of them. You're a big, large company.
Right.
You might be spending upwards of $1 million to put that program together. So if you've got incremental increases in profits that are more than $1 million, it's already paid for itself.
Sure.
And hopefully you've got more than that.
Right.
You might be 10-fold, 20-fold what you're investing in that incentive.
All right.
And also, if you have top salespeople that are really doing a good job for you, chances are they'll do just as good a job for someone else.
Sure.
Salespeople are salespeople.
That's how they roll.
And if they're good, they're going to be good anywhere.
Right.
Where they're going to thrive is where they feel valued and where they can get the best rewards and recognition and salary, right? So assuming the salary is where it should be, assuming the bonuses, and you will still have to pay some cash bonuses. Then what's the difference between you and another company?
Right.
Well, maybe you take them on a VIP trip every year.
Oh, gotcha.
But maybe the other company doesn't. So I think what's happening now and what I'm seeing evolve is the number one thing on most CEOs' minds, board members are saying, we need talent and we need to keep it.
Oh, nice.
We need to hire good people and we need to keep them.
Sure.
So one way to do that is to create a motivating environment.
All right.
Not just in the office, but something they can do with their peers, with their spouses.
All right.
And go through an experience together.
Sure.
They can't do that. Even if they make $1 million a year,
right.
They can't necessarily go to Hawaii with 100 other people and their spouses and be treated to all the things you're treated to in a large group.
Right.
So
interesting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's clever. So how did you get involved in this whole area, the incentive area?
Oh, that's a really long story.
Cliff Notes version.
Well, I was involved in, I worked for CUNA Mutual for a number of years. Prior to that, I worked for Bank of America. And I was always involved in more or less the marketing side of things. And I did a lot of national conferences, did speaking engagements around the country for my division. I was in the lending division. And also put together, regional meetings with salespeople out in the field. So I did quite a bit of travel and did attend quite a few conferences and put together my own, more or less, conferences, but worked with people like me. So basically, I switched seats.
All right.
And
so you saw what they were doing, and you're like, hey, that looks cool.
Well, actually, at the time, I didn't think about doing what I'm doing.
Oh.
It really evolved differently than, I didn't make a conscious decision to get into this business. What happened is, as in all good stories, there was a romance.
All right.
And I met someone who was in the business. And I started to get more exposure to the business and realized I really kind of liked the business, and I loved the positive aspect of it.
Sure. How long ago are we talking though?
Oh, this is 20 years ago plus.
All right.
Let's see. Yeah, 99. So my goodness.
Oh, so pretty far before you actually started your own gig.
Yes. Yes. And he had his own company, and I did some work with him, and sort of got exposed enough to know that it was something I was interested in doing.
All right.
That didn't last, forever,
the
obviously.
Business or the romance?
Both. Well, the business, I actually did a really good job of growing his business and left him with a pretty good situation.
Sure.
But decided I really just was wanting to do it on my own. So I just started my own company.
Nice.
I didn't take any of the clients.
Sure.
I started fresh, which is one of the reasons why I bought the company in New York. Because I got a foundation with new clients that were not crossing over old clients.
Right.
And although I didn't have a non-compete with the last company, I did want any confusion on the client's part, and I didn't want any impropriety,
no bad blood,
assumed or bad blood or anything. So a lot of it was just wanting to start fresh.
Sure.
And so the timing of buying the company in New York was was actually good. So it all sort of fell into place.
Sure.
And so once I got everything up and running and going, that's when the recession hit, like I said. And then I kind of had to regroup and rethink how we were going to keep those clients, get them through that tough period. A lot of businesses were really pulling back. It was a tough time. It was a tough time.
Yeah.
So, and now they're back. Everybody's making money. And
I
now
like to think most of them are.
Yeah, I think most people are.
Every once in a while, I run across someone that still blames the economy. I'm like, are you sure? It's been a decade. You could probably. It's not the economy anymore. It's you.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to evolve and adapt, or you're not going to survive. And we're never going to have an economy that's always predictable.
No.
And so you have to figure out how to diversify your business enough to make sure that you survive those bumps.
It's a game, man. Just play the game.
It's a game. Travel is going to fall off again at some point. Immigration became a problem, so our international group started pulling more domestic.
Oh, interesting.
Mexico had problems, so our Mexican programs pulled in and said, let's go to the Caribbean instead. Then we had hurricanes in the Caribbean, so then let's go to Austin, Texas. And, so it's always changing, and especially with the travel portion of our business.
Yeah.
We have to be ready to switch gears at a moment's notice.
All right.
Because we don't know when there's going to be a change in the immigration policy or a flood, an earthquake, a hurricane, a cartel killing.
Sure.
And people are very reactionary. I don't know if you remember a short time ago, the Dominican had these problems with some people dying on vacation.
I do not. I apologize.
So the Dominican had a few people died in some resorts in the Dominican, which ultimately turned out to be natural causes and people that probably drank and ate too much and had a heart condition to begin with or whatever the situation.
But it's still bad publicity for
But
the
it was bad PR. People said, people are dying in the Dominican. Don't go there because you'll die if you go check into a hotel,
All right.
And even though there were 10 million visitors a year, if one person died, there was a problem, right? So people tend to overreact to situations like the cartel killing that just happened in Mexico, which was obviously very sad.
Right.
But they were in a part of Mexico that's not a tourist area.
Sure.
Cancun is still extremely safe. Los Cabos is still safe. But people have a perception.
Sure.
And once that perception is validated in their mind, they shy away. And although we can convince people it's actually quite safe, a lot more people die in Chicago every day than die in Mexico or the Dominican.
Chicago's a rough place.
Chicago's, New York, Madison, Wisconsin had more homicides this year than most of the Latin American countries.
Wow.
You just don't, you hear about them, so you think, it's dangerous there, right?
Right.
So overcoming those perceptions, sometimes it's easier to help people just find a new home for their program rather than force the issue. And even the client might say, yeah, I know it's perfectly safe to go to Los Cabos, but my people don't feel safe.
All right.
And
so they don't consider it a motivating benefit, right?
Exactly.
You're sending me to my slaughter here.
Yeah, it's a VIP trip, not a a survival.
Right. Whoever survives gets to keep their job.
That's right. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So it sounds like the trips that you're putting together, a lot of them are more than just here's a plane ticket and a hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Have fun.
Absolutely.
That's more involved. Can you elaborate on that a little?
Yeah. So first of all, we'll work with the company to figure out what are the rules for qualifying. What behaviors do we want to change? What sales goals do we want to meet? What productivity goals? What
You're talking about metrics to achieve the travel.
Yes.
Okay.
To achieve the goal.
Okay.
So we'll usually work with them on what we call the qualifier rules. Basically structure of the program.
Okay.
And then we'll work with them on the marketing of the program. The piece that people often forget about is how do I communicate, motivate my people through this tool.
Gotcha. Okay. So you got to tell your people that they actually have this option and how to use it. And
exactly.
What's expected of them to achieve this. Okay, sure.
I remember walking into a bank. I will not name the bank a few years back. And they were saying, oh, yeah, we have an incentive program here and we get to go at the end of the year on a trip to
wherever.
somewhere,
sure.
Mexico, whatever. And I said, oh, well, that's cool. So what do you have to do to earn the trip? And they said, well, we really don't know. We just get told at the end of the year if we made it or not.
What?
I said, whoa, missed opportunity.
Yeah, right?
Really big missed opportunity for
Holy
that company
cow.
throughout the year, motivating their people,
Sure.
setting, incremental goals
Right.
and things to get people fired up and excited about going on,
Yeah.
being
So
able
no
to.
idea if they're on target or not.
No idea.
If we get in a trip, we have no idea.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, I mean, the rules are important. The communication of the program is
Sure.
extremely important. And then the designing of the program, which is probably where we help them the most. Most companies, even large companies, don't have someone on staff whose job it is to follow the trends in the incentive industry and
I would
travel.
bet that's a very safe bet.
And so, kind of telling them, here's where the good values are.
Sure.
Here's where the good experiences are. Here's where the good hotels. Here's where the air is better and, all of those sorts of pieces.
Sure.
So helping to kind of get them to a point of picking a destination that's going to work for the group.
Okay.
Then designing everything around that destination, getting all the air blocked and put together, the
Sure.
hotel rooms, the structure of the program. Are we going to include breakfast and lunch? Are we going to have drinks by the pool? Are
Sure.
we going to have activities and excursions? Are we going
right.
to have gala dinner with awards presented,
Sure.
like a kind of an Oscars of their
Sure.
industry? Putting all of those pieces together.
Interesting. This is getting pretty elaborate then.
It gets pretty involved, yeah.
All right.
It does, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the goal is to make that group of people feel
Sure.
like VIPs.
So generally speaking, they're going as a group, not just individually. Is that right?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. Although you can do individual travel, I'd say that those are what, in our industry, I guess we'd sort of call them one-offs,
Okay.
But an true incentive travel program is usually a group.
Okay.
Your top salespeople, your
Sure.
top, and a lot more attention is given now to the other people that support that sales
Sure.
team. So the
Okay.
internal people that sometimes
Right.
can be actually demotivated when they see the salespeople go off to Hawaii and they're still
Sure.
in the office, but they spent 3 weekends helping them get that
Sure.
proposal together that qualified them for the trip.
Right. I answer every call you have.
Wait a minute,
Where's my trip to Guam?
Right. So then we get those people
All right.
often involved as well. Maybe they're nominated by an internal committee, and every year they change out who gets
Sure.
to go sort of internally,
Okay.
or even a whole group of internal people.
Sure.
We have done more and more of that integration in recent years, because it's not just the salespeople that drive
No.
the growth in a company, obviously. So engaging them in that way. So I mean, the biggest thing is, for us is just how do you make that person feel special from the
Sure.
moment that they earn that trip
Right.
till they're done with that program.
All right.
And even after they go home,
Yeah.
do they get a follow-up mailing of a beautiful picture of them on the beach
Sure.
with their wife?
Oh,
do
very
they get,
cool.
there's ways to reinforce that award throughout their
Clever.
career,
Sure.
even, and then it becomes a trophy thing for them to say
Right.
every year, I qualified for the trip.
Nice.
I qualified again. Oh,
Sure.
my wife will kill me if I don't qualify this year, because she
it's-
wants to see all her friends that she met last year, all the other wives
Yeah.
or husbands.
Sure. That's
so-
interesting you say that, because my brother-in-law gets trips like that, and I bet there would be, they do a different warm place, right, every year, and he's in sales, and I imagine that there would be like, oh, you didn't make the trip this year? Oh, you slacker, right? So interesting. Huh, that's clever. I want to downshift so that I make sure that we cover this to you starting the business. What made you decide to start a business versus just working at another company that does this?
Well, I don't know if I can totally answer that. It was circumstances presented themselves, opportunities
Sure.
just sort of popped up. Like I said, this opportunity to buy the company in New
Sure.
York. I would have to say that I'm a pretty self-driven person.
Okay.
While I did my stint in corporate America for 25 years,
That's a long stint.
it's a long stint, and it's a long time to
Sure.
to operate in the boundaries of an organization. And I am probably one of those people that really probably should have never been in corporate America, but somehow
Sure.
I survived, and I think
All
I
right.
did because I was given a lot of autonomy in my job.
right, sure.
And I had great bosses and people that understood that I just needed to kind of
Right.
forge my own way, you know, and they would give me very broad parameters and I would
that's
sort
cool.
of be able to operate within
Sure.
that. And that's probably the only reason. I
Okay.
did go to a leadership school many years ago when I was in the corporate world, and people like Colin Powell went to this school. I was very fortunate.
Oh,
My
wow.
mentor at the company had recommended me to go to the school, so
Yeah.
they did all this testing on me. So
Okay.
I understood a lot about how I operate.
Okay.
How my management style, how people perceive me, things like that.
Sure.
So one of the tests they gave me was an entrepreneur test,
Okay.
and it was on a scale of 0 to 150.
Okay.
Now keep in mind at the time I'm working in a corporate job,
Right.
and
The polar opposite of entrepreneur.
absolute polar opposite. So I sat down with the psychologist that they had a PhDs examining our
Wow.
test results, and
Okay.
it was very intense.
We talking like a Myers-Briggs thing? Or
Yeah, well,
DISC
that
or
was
something?
that was a minor piece of it.
Okay.
With all kinds
Just
of testing.
throwing all the tests at you.
Yeah,
Okay.
like there was hours of testing. And,
Wires everywhere.
yeah, and it was just crazy. So, and then they observed us through two-way glass or one-way glass through the whole week as they put us in all these leadership situations. And
Wow.
it was very intense. It was in Colorado.
Interesting.
But anyway, I had done this entrepreneur's test, and it was on a scale of 0 to 150, and I
Okay.
got a 149.
All right. Well, that tells you something.
And the guy looked at me and he said, "What are you doing in corporate America? You should be running your own business." And
Yeah.
I said, "I don't know. I just kind of
Right.
wound up here, and they're pretty good to me, and they,
Sure.
like I said, gave me a job where I had a lot of autonomy." So it's pretty much always been in my blood to be an entrepreneur.
Sure.
It was just a matter of what
Sure.
and when.
All right.
So here
So
I
just
am.
stars aligned. You got the business, rock and roll. Mm-hmm. So how long did you have fire before you got into the light?
Probably only about a year.
Oh, it's not even that
Year
long.
and a half, something like that. Yeah, I was just, must have been because I think we sealed the deal with Arnold sometime in 2007
Okay.
because I had bought the company about a year before the recession really hit.
Okay.
So we were operating
Sure.
a year and a half. So
All
it must
right.
have been 2007. I'd have to go back and look at the records.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
As you can tell, I'm kind of one of these big picture people.
No, that's how entrepreneurs roll, right? You're just like, stuff happened. It doesn't matter now. It's in the past. So I imagine Arnold was pretty happy when recession hit, and he's like, well, I got out at the right
Yeah,
time.
he did. Yeah, yeah. Well, we still talk.
Okay.
And he's
Just on the golf course somewhere?
Yeah, he's on a golf course, and right now not. He's in New York, so he's
Okay.
probably
Wishing he was on a golf course.
yeah.
So let's shift into employees,
Mm-hmm.
because you essentially inherited some employees when you bought Arnold's business.
Mm-hmm.
And then I imagine employees come and go. And have you grown or added employees?
Yeah, we have. One of the big things that probably changed. I hired my son
Oh,
after a number of years.
okay.
He wanted to come work for me right away, but I said, no, you need to work for other people for
Get
a
some
while.
experience, sure.
But he has now become a very instrumental part of the business
Oh, very cool.
Part of my succession plan. My daughter also, she has worked with me since the beginning.
Oh, wow.
But,
Okay.
so it's a family business,
Oh,
which I'm very grateful for
Yeah.
because it sort of builds in a succession plan for me. I guess I don't want to say the one who taught them, but
Right.
obviously they work in a manner that's
Sure.
consistent with the values of
Okay.
how I want the company to be run
Right.
and the ethics that we
sure.
try to hold ourselves to and all of those things. So, and there's an inherent trust that comes with your family.
Sure.
And my daughter does all the books.
All right. Sure.
I think everything's in order. I do check in from time
Sure.
to time, but so it's worked out very well.
Sure.
And when you do have the ups and downs in the business, I think when you have family involved,
Yeah.
there's a little more, they're a little more invested.
Sure.
maybe
That's
than
fair.
the
That's
average
fair.
employee. So
Do you have employees outside of them?
Yeah.
then? Okay.
Yeah. Everybody
Everybody gets along. Everybody's
Oh
cool?
yeah. it's a very fun industry. And I think
bet.
what happens is people are immediately drawn to it because they say, oh, you travel all over and,
Right.
oh, I want to do that. And sometimes they look at the glamorous side of it and forget there's a whole lot of hard work that goes behind that to get you there. So you get to do some amazing things, but it's kind of like, join the army, see the world. That you still have to go through boot camp. And you still have to do the hard work
Not
involved.
the most comfortable planes in the world.
No,
Right?
no. I don't think it's quite like joining the army working for us. I hope not. But, the idea
You don't get
is
shot at that often. Okay.
the idea is that it's not all fun in the sun. And,
Right.
and you're often doing a program in Puerto Rico, and your friends are texting going, oh, must be rough, Well, actually, I haven't
But you're still working.
stepped in the ocean. I haven't put a swimsuit. I don't even pack a swimsuit when I'm doing a program with a client because you're working.
Right. You're in the location, but it means nothing.
The location is sometimes nicer in January to be in Puerto Rico than in Madison, but you're working.
From your way to the rental car.
Yeah.
It's nice. I see the sun. So tell me a story as far as growth of the changes that you've seen. I guess adding your kids and all this kind of stuff. Has it been difficult to adapt to the changing times or even employees and stuff like that?
No. I mean, I would say that it's challenging to find good people.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And it's also, my industry is what I kind of consider a fairly high burnout industry.
Oh.
It's very easy to work long hours, long days.
Sure.
And we usually have a slowdown in the summer because
it's nice here.
Yeah, people
right.
People want to stay home in the Midwest in the summer, right?
Enjoy the 6 weeks we have a nice weather.
Exactly. Right? So we've always enjoyed sort of a slower period in the summer.
Sure.
And that's the time that the employees can recharge.
All right.
And kind of get, ready for the next incentive season. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of going away because we also do inbound into Madison. Oh. So we're big supporters of our own city.
Okay.
And so we're doing more and more conferences and inbound meetings to Madison.
All right.
And we're acting as a DMC for the city.
DMC.
And a DMC stands for Destination Management Company.
All right.
Basically what it means is I've got 100 people. I want to do a meeting in Madison.
Sure.
Right? I say, well, gee, I need some help with logistics. Where do I get buses to pick people up?
All right.
What venues where should I take people to dinner? What hotels should I book? All of this stuff. And if I don't know Madison, I need some help, right?
Sure.
So I'm going to maybe go to the Visitors Bureau and say, okay, well, they've got some help, but they're not going to help manage your whole group when they come to town. Mm-hmm. So we'll help with managing the group. For example, we have a client that's coming from Chicago next summer in July.
Okay.
Over Art Fair on the Square.
Okay.
And something else is going on that. Oh, DNC.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So we're like, oh, great. You picked a great time to come to
Sorry
Madison.
about the lack of hotel rooms.
It'd be really busy.
Yeah.
So we're helping them navigate.
Sure.
Making sure we've got the buses secure, that they're not all going to be in Milwaukee at the DNC, things like that. Because they don't know Madison like we do, they're looking to us to help them get all those things in place and make sure that they're all ready to go when they get their group here.
Interesting.
So unfortunately for my employees, maybe a little bit, I've ate up their downtime in the summer by having inbound business coming in the summers.
Right,
so
well, you don't want them bored. So
I don't want them to be,
That's cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you're decade plus in business. What are some of the things that you wish you knew back when you started?
Oh my goodness. Everything. I guess I like the surprise of things changing. I'm one of these people that gets bored very easily.
Okay.
So in that sense, it's been a good business because it's never the same.
Sure.
No day is ever the same in our office. But I guess I wish I would have known that I needed to take more time to sit back and work on the business and take a little less time in the business.
Sure.
Maybe should have hired a few more staff earlier on.
Okay.
And start training them sooner.
Sure.
To get more to replace myself, essentially.
Sure.
Was doing more hands-on work than I probably should have, and feel like I might have missed some opportunities.
Okay.
Because of that.
That's
and
fair.
I think most small business owners are guilty of that. We tend to be control freaks.
No one can do it like I do it, right? That's extremely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine there's a certain ego that has to come with owning a business.
Yeah.
And so we believe that we can do it the best, right?
Yeah.
Even if we can't.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I feel like I think I check my ego at the door. I try
Sure.
to, but it's not even an ego thing. For me, it's a concern about making sure that the client is happy.
Totally agree. Yeah.
And one of the things that I really is very hard to do
Right.
is get a call from a client telling you they're not happy with one of your people.
Yeah, it's not good.
But I'd much rather have that because feedback is a gift.
Yes.
And then I can work on that.
Right. You can fix it, right? Where the
Right.
client doesn't say anything. They just tell all their friends that you guys are terrible.
Right.
That's the worst in the world.
And I think I've been very fortunate, and there's been less than a handful of times that I've
Sure.
ever actually had a client call me and say they've had a problem.
Sure.
And 95% of the time it's been something where we're able to tweak it, fix it,
Sure.
still work with that person, just understand that maybe they weren't communicating in the way
Right.
that the client wanted. Sometimes as simple as, a millennial that wanted to text everything,
Sure.
and a boomer client like me that wants it an email or a phone call.
Sure, right.
And like, how come they're not contacting me? Well, it's
Right.
because they're used to just texting.
Right.
So we might have to adjust how we're doing some things here.
We
but-
don't talk to people.
Yeah.
Not personally, anyways.
So, I mean, and honestly, the complaints I have had over the years, which have really been very few, have been very manageable sorts of things. But
Nice.
think if those people would have not said anything.
Yeah.
And then just maybe continued to be unhappy
Right.
with something minor that could have been fixed. So I appreciate feedback.
Yeah, it's huge. It's
It
huge.
is.
What is some advice that you would give to someone that was considering starting their own business?
Probably that right
Okay.
there. Don't be afraid of feedback.
Don't be afraid.
And don't and seek it.
All right.
And ask.
Sure.
And I did some third party interviewing with my clients. I hired someone outside of the company
Oh, very
to
cool.
call my clients.
All right.
And talk to them.
Sure.
And interview them. And what came out of that was some good feedback, but some awesome testimonials.
Nice.
And some awesome feedback about how great my staff is,
Sure.
what a good job we do, all that good stuff.
All right.
And able to use that as a marketing tool.
Clever.
So I think looking for feedback, we're always afraid it's going to be bad. Maybe that's just our human nature.
Yeah.
And what you might be very surprised what you find. So definitely continually get feedback as you're going through the process
Sure.
of growing.
Right.
It will make you better.
I like that.
without a doubt.
Yeah. Super cool. Well, Sandra, I appreciate you being on the show.
Sure.
This has been awesome. You had a lot going on. I love that you started this and this whole. You have me rethinking the incentive and the bonus. It's like, oh man. Every time
We'll talk.
right? Every time I get somebody on the air, I was like, oh man, have I been doing it wrong this whole time? Oh well, life goes on. That's how we learn. This has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. Coming to you from the Sun Prairie Community Studios, underwritten by Bank of Sun Prairie. If you are listening to this on the web, please like, subscribe, and share. My name is James Kateman, and Authentic Business Adventures is brought to you by Calls on Call, offering call answering and receptionist services for small businesses across the country on the web at callsoncall.com, as well as Draw In Customers Business Coaching, offering business coaching services for entrepreneurs in all stages of their business on the web at drawincustomers.com. And of course, the Bold Business Book, a book for the entrepreneur in all of us, available on Amazon and wherever fine books are sold. We'd like to thank you, our wonderful listeners, as well as our guest, Sandra Daniel, owner of the Firelight Group. Sandra, how can people find you?
Well, they can find us at www.firelightgroup.com.
Easy enough, firelightgroup.com. Awesome,
it.
love it. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Find us airing on 103.5 Wednesdays at 1 p.m., Sundays at 2 p.m., as well as at sunprairiemediacenter.com. Past episodes can be found morning, noon, and night at the podcast link, found at drawincustomers.com. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week. I want you to stay awesome. And if you do nothing else, enjoy your business.